not be. So,
great information. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Sure.
As well, Mayor. So you asked what two things? Well, I think those two things are very clear that you have to deal with today, and then you have to deal with the future. And the more pressing instance right now is today, and this body should deal with that in some way. And you are the constitutionally vested entity to do that. You have a variety of options in front of you, and when you deliberate together how to best address that, you have the constitutional authority and permission to do it. And so the mayor has suggested one possible remedy. There are others, and you could call for a special election. Still, you can direct the manner of your electors. You have a variety of constitutional options, but one option should not be to ignore it and to certify a corrupted, irredeemably compromised election. So we would ask that you deal with that today, and then for the future, look at all of these things that you've raised. Look at all of the voting machines. Look at all of these people who are interfering. Really, you have an executive office and branch that is runaway. You have from your governor to your secretary of state to each of these individual election officers. This is election official fraud, and that's what's going on here. And for the sake of every future election, that should be addressed in the legislature, because you also have the constitutionally vested obligation to the people of the state to address that. So my recommendation, along with the mayor, and I sincerely applaud everything that he has said as well, and on behalf of our client, but on behalf of the nation, you're right when you say that this isn't just about overturning an election. It's not about deriving the outcome. That's what the fraudsters want to do. What we want to make sure of is that we, the people, get to select and prefer our commander-in-chief, and you have the obligation and the responsibility to ensure for the people of Pennsylvania that
Thank you.
occurs.
Thank you very much. I believe we have Representative Metcalf on Zoom with one final question. Darrell?
Can you hear me, Senator Argyle?
Loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Senator Argyle, Senator Mastriano, for hosting this very important hearing. It's very important to the future of our republic today. Thank you for the invitation to the House members that are joining you there today. Thank you for the invitation for me to join you via Zoom today, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some input and ask a question of Mayor Giuliani here today. But a lot of what's been talked about, and I really appreciate Mayor Giuliani and the attorneys' initiation to the General Assembly to reassert our constitutional authority regarding the certification of this election. I am a former state government committee chair that had oversight for the election law for many years. I served in that position, not during the last term, but in the past. And we have battled in Pennsylvania to fight the fraud and fight the way that our election laws have been violated, not just for several cycles, but for decades. And we've actually had a state Senate race that was overturned, I believe, in the Philadelphia area back in the 90s because of fraud. So when we look at what has occurred here, and I really appreciate Mayor Giuliani bringing all those individuals before us today to provide a testimony at this hearing. And I think even more important, I hope that we get a chance to see that their testimony was heard in a court of law where a just ruling is found to protect every legal vote that was cast here in this election in November, and to discard all those votes that were not legally cast. And I think as we've been overwhelmed, as was mentioned by the senators at the beginning of this meeting, that as we came through Election Day, and prior up to that, we'd had 3.5 million people filing for unemployment because of the unconstitutional dictates of Wolf to shut down businesses and stop people from going to work in Pennsylvania. And we were just overwhelmed with those calls. But since Election Day, we have been overwhelmed with calls from individuals who are distraught over the future of our republic, the future of our future elections, and being able to ensure that people are having their legitimate legal votes counted to elect who's going to govern them. And right now, with the examples that were shown here today with these witnesses, a lot of the people have been calling my office and emailing me. They are demanding action. And as we've heard today, there's a lot of citizens out there that have important information that needs to be shared in the courtroom to ensure that these fraudulent activities, and it's not. I mean, a lot of times when people talk about fraud, they think of impersonation, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about fraudulent activities as far as a fraudulent election because they've not abided by the laws that have been passed by we the people through our elected legislature, as the U.S. Constitution, as our state constitution, as our laws provide for to facilitate our elections. So, Mayor Giuliani, as we move forward, and I stand with Senator Mastriano and others that are there today. I actually sent an email out while I was listening to some of the testimony today given at the hearing to the whole Republican caucus in the Pennsylvania House to encourage them to sign on and listen to what was happening today with this information that I think they all need to hear, and that every Pennsylvanian, every American needs to hear, to help encourage our citizens, Mayor Giuliani, as you move forward in the court battle. I know the press has been continually day after day saying no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. I think we heard a lot today. Do you expect that you're going to have an opportunity in the right level of courts in our state, in our nation, to have this evidence presented by some of these people here today and others that you have signing affidavits?
yes, I am. I'm certain that there will be a court decision that will allow us to present our evidence. The case in Pennsylvania was dismissed on a motion to dismiss, in which the judge made factual findings against us, basically saying he thought our claims were absurd. Of course, he has no right to do that on a motion to dismiss. On a motion to dismiss, he has to assume that everything we're saying is true. And I think it was just done to delay us. And I can't imagine a judge giving a correct decision here that wouldn't at least allow us to have a factual hearing. And the reason we came to you and some of the other state legislators is because I believe that we're being denied our right to a hearing by the courts. But then again, you do have responsibilities equal, if not superior to the courts, to oversee these elections. So we've made similar requests to the legislatures in Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia. And we're very hopeful that next week we'll get to present to them as we also press for a hearing in court. I think it is really important for the American people to see these are not my claims or Jenna's claims or President Trump's claims and many of these people came to us because they're so upset. These are the complaints of the American people. And I'm more than happy to make available to you an outline of the other affidavits. It would have been impossible to produce all the witnesses. But I can show you that for each one of these witnesses, there are anywhere from 15 to 50 other witnesses who saw the same thing. I have a list just in Pittsburgh alone of 27. I have a list in Philadelphia of 32. I have a list of about 40 witnesses on cure. Even though the numbers aren't ascertainable, there's still a lot. None of the things we're saying to you are just arguments. This is evidence. I keep explaining to people affidavits are the best evidence you can have until somebody actually gets into court and swears. And our evidence is under oath. Their claims are just claims.
We have one additional question online from Representative.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Darrell. From Representative Kiefer.
Thank you, Senator Argyle. Thank you, Senator Argyle. Thank you, Mayor Giuliani.
Representative Don Kiefer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Mastriano, for hosting this, and thank you, Mayor, for all the testimony that you have brought forth. Two questions I have. First is regarding testimony that we received on the pink highlighted ballots that were scanned through and submitted, and then they were able to be redocumented and then scanned through again. Is there any action being taken on that, given the number of ballots that we're talking about there?
You know the answer to that? That's a state issue. I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but I'll get it for you.
Okay.
That's not something we write down.
Okay, that would be great to know, because I know we saw a lot of that, and there was speculation out there that people were just blindly filling out these ballots, but there is supposed to be a process, and so it was my understanding that process was supposed to be videoed or live streamed and witnessed by a majority and minority inspector when you are recreating a ballot that is not able to be scanned. So that would be good to know. And the second thing is, Attorney Ellis, you had made a comment regarding what our constitutional ability is, and so while we understand what the Constitution does say, as far as us taking responsibility and we could intervene in certain sectors, while the Constitution gave us that ability, it's been explained to us by attorneys that we took that power that was given to us as General Assembly members and we put it into statute. And that statute says, how we appoint our electors and how we certify the elections. It's all spelled out in our Pennsylvania Code based upon the power that we have from the Constitution. You have a differing legal opinion of that?
Yes, I do. And I think that our collective, and with my co-counsel here, you can take that power back at any time. And when you have the delegation of authority, the legislature can take that back. And you also have an instance here that the law was completely ignored. So even though you have a manner in which your electors are generally selected in Pennsylvania, and that's works for the past presidential election since those statutes were authorized and gone through the legislature, this is an election that has been corrupted. And so you can't go through that method. And those laws were violated. And that is the General Assembly here, the legislature, is the authorized entity in the Constitution that selects the manner. You can take that power back at any time. And so when the laws were ignored, and that's where we have, and why we have all of this evidence to bring to you, is to show you each of these different types of ways that election officials have violated the manner in which you, as the General Assembly, have prescribed in the law how you select your electors. Because they violated that law, you have the constitutional authority to craft a remedy. You can take that power back at any time. You don't need a court to tell you that. So absolutely, and you can look at that. You can look at the federal law for elections. This is your constitutional prerogative. State legislature, in the context of Article 2, Section 1.2, means state legislature, period.
You also delegated it to the very people whose conduct is in question and whose you're asking them to investigate themselves. So given the fact that this is your sole constitutional right and authority, you can always assume constitutional authority that you've delegated back. You also have a rational basis for doing it because you're asking them, this was done, one might argue, or at least that's one of the interpretations of the fact, deliberately by the governor, by the elections commissioner, who issued absurd opinions telling people to violate the law. And then you're going to ask them to make a decision on the election that allegedly they corrupted. It seems to me you have a perfect right to take that back and make that decision de novo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for your patience. The public, our many witnesses, our senators and representatives. As you've seen today, this COVID pandemic has made holding a public hearing a little bit more challenging than usual. but we have still received an enormous amount of information today, information that we will share with every one of our members. There is no doubt in my mind that we will pass legislation in the House and the Senate based on what we have learned today. I also want to thank Senator Mastriano. Doug and his staff have been enormously helpful today. It really goes without saying, we would not be here without Doug Mastriano, and so I'm going to give him the last word, because I know even if I didn't, he'll take it anyway, and he deserves to have it. Doug.
I love you, Senator Argyle. Thank you for being willing to use your committee to do this hearing. So we pulled the trigger yesterday morning around 9 a.m. and look what happened here. And as Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Guess what? Guess what? The truth's out there. Media, you should have found these witnesses. You need to do your job. Now you see them out here. Do your job. You're essential to this republic, and without you doing your job, instead of being partisan hacks, this republic can't stand. So now you got some information, you got some witnesses with courage. These people are heroes to me as a retired Army colonel. I look at them and I say, you guys are outstanding. Thanks for being willing to step up. Because I am cognizant that the so-called tolerant people on the left will not show much love or tolerance to people they disagree with. And so thank you for standing, because you're warriors being able to stand for and save this republic. So thank you for going forward here. I mean, indeed, I started this off quoting from John Adams. We are in Adams County. Facts are stubborn things. There's a lot of hard facts out there, and guess what? As history and change in 1863 in Gettysburg, back then it's July 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So on this day, history's changing for our country and state back at Gettysburg once again. I mean, I don't even know how this happened in America. We could send 50 years ago, men to the moon, but we can't have a safe, secure election in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. What's going on here? It's got to be by design, because we have the technology, we have stealth aircraft that are the envy of the world, but we can't run an election better than Afghanistan. Congressman Perry, you and I were in Afghanistan, and I don't know how in the heck Afghanistan has more secure, safe elections than Pennsylvania does. I mean, beam me up, Scotty. There's no sign of intelligent life anywhere. Really. We move heaven and earth with American dollars to secure elections in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. We can't do it in our own state. It's by design. There's people in Pennsylvania not interested in safe, secure elections, and we have to correct this. There's two things that need to happen. First off, we need to make sure that the real winner is sent forth from this presidential election. And number two, we need to fix this. It doesn't happen ever again. I can't believe we're having this conversation here in Pennsylvania. This is the kind of stuff I hear about that goes on in Belarus under Lukashenko, or in Russia under Putin, under Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Really? Here in our state? I mean, this is disgusting to me. I watched, when I was doing strategy in Russia, Putin's people stuffing ballot boxes. The same thing that happened in Pennsylvania. When I saw that 15, 20 years ago, well, thank God we're not like that. What happened? What happened? And we're not going to let it stand. I saw, you have to forgive people because we are a constitutional republic, so I'll forgive those that say democracy, but I saw one man had a sign in Philadelphia, and the irony wasn't lost on me. Democracy dies in Philadelphia. Can you imagine the irony of that? Where the light of liberty was lit in 1776, it transformed this world. We're in this very same state, a new birth of freedom. And then, of course, let's not forget 2001, Todd Beamer. Let's roll. You know what? It's our time to roll. This is no time. Democracy can die in darkness. In dark rooms with no transparency and accountability. We're shining light on this darkness here. We're going to take our state back. We're not standing aside in this hour. As Representative Metcalf rightly said, in 1994, there was so much shenanigans and cheating in the Marks versus Stinson case that a federal district judge threw out the election results, took a senator out of Harrisburg, state senator, and put the Republican in because the election results were so corrupted. So we do have a precedent here, federal courts, and I hope you take a hard look at that here. Has our election results in Pennsylvania at the presidential and other levels been so corrupted that the results have to be thrown out? That's going to be a case you're going to have to make before the Supreme Court there, but it sure sounds like something stinks in Denmark or in Philadelphia. I don't know. One vote, one person, one legal vote per person. And any cheating goes in there disenfranchises an American. And I can't believe this is happening here, and we're not going to let it stand. I don't know why it's so hard. I know it's hard because this has been going on here for a lot longer than we imagine. But in Galatians 6:9, we're told by St. Paul, grow not weary doing good, because in due time you'll reap your harvest. We're going to reap our harvest. The time for dithering. The time for dithering and deliberation is over. It's time for decisive action. We have to protect our Commonwealth and our nation. The eyes of the world are upon us, and let's turn the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania from a laughingstock to the pride of the world once again, as we've always had been and need to be again. This is our day, this is our hour, this is our time. So yes, Mr. Franklin, a republic, if you can keep it, we're going to keep it. Can you keep it? Can you? Will you? We're going to keep the republic. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you all. We stand adjourned.